Israeli aggression towards Gaza has now waged for 2 weeks. Resistance to the war from both Israel and Palestine has been escalating. Demonstrators have been protesting in cities all over Israel, and in the West Bank, demonstrations and riots have broken out in most towns and at many checkpoints. Some have speculated the re-emergence of resistance in the West Bank is akin to the third intifada, Arabic for uprising or reawakening. To understand the significance of these events, The Real News spoke to Jesse Rosenfeld, freelance journalist based in Tel Aviv and Ramallah. Jesse, you've just published an article in Haaretz saying that you foresee the possibility of a third intifada from the West Bank. I was wondering whether other local journalists are echoing your suspicions.
There's a recognition in the media that there is considerable unrest, and there's been popular discussion, especially on Al Jazeera, about the way that the PA has been involved in preventing demonstrations from happening, and their own issues with containment. So, these things are being discussed.
There have been a lot of reports about the Palestinian Authority cracking down on Palestinian resistance in the West Bank. What impact does this have?
There's been a sort of simmering intolerance of the PA that's sort of broken out at different times over the past year. There's been complete lack of faith in the Annapolis process. This sort of division between Gaza and the West Bank, there's incredible resentment at the PA for allowing that to happen. And now with this war, there's incredible outrage. And Abbas has to, on paper, go to elections by February. His presidential term, expires this month. And at that point, it will be a real question of whether the PA goes to elections and potentially loses, or whether it holds on to power and faces a very strong potential for a popular revolt. Really, when people talk about a new intifada breaking out, people talk about it breaking out both against the PA and against Israel. And that's been sort of a popular expression for at least the past 6 months, and it's really something you hear very commonly across the West Bank today. People have complete disregard for the Palestinian Authority on a popular and general level. Some of the places that isn't true are places of economic wealth, like Ramallah, which is also a political center that's incredibly based on PA resources and PA infrastructure.
With this growing frustration at the Fatah-led Palestinian Authority, how will this attack on Gaza influence the upcoming Palestinian elections?
The Palestinian elections will probably be focused on how best can we better our situation, how best can we achieve a successful national liberation struggle. Should we be pursuing one state or two state in terms of what will provide us freedom and liberation? There will also be the factionalism between Fatah and Hamas, provided Hamas is allowed to run. The whole dialogue of elections in the Palestinian territories is one that's shaped and controlled by the system of occupation. What that basically means is that the elections are already hampered and the dialogue is already set because of the daily realities there.
And how will the Israeli relations with Hamas influence either election?
Hamas is not going to concede to anything less than the end of the siege, and as Israel invades their territory, they're going to defend themselves, and they're going to resist the army. Israel's rhetoric and approach to not achieving a ceasefire are because it's caught itself within a war that's goals are difficult, if not near impossible, to ascertain for the purpose of electoral jockeying. So
would you say the process of dialogue is over for Palestine?
It really depends on what you mean as dialogue. The process of the routine peace negotiations where Israel expands its occupation, in that process has been very well recognized at this point and understood by Palestinians. And so, the old talks process of that we saw with Oslo and we saw with Camp David, and then we saw trying to be rejuvenated after the United States' support for Israel's crushing of the Intifada, during Annapolis. Those sorts of processes have lost complete confidence of or basis of support within Palestinian society.
And what about within Israel?
Well, within Israeli society, there's cynicism and apathy towards it. I mean, Israelis were never particularly into Annapolis. From their perspective as well, they saw this as sort of a failing process of bringing them what they wanted. It's partly why you see such a rise in Netanyahu and an accepting of the discourse that Israel has set within the elections of, or Likud has said, of we don't care about political peace or negotiations. We're looking at what we call an economic peace, or elevating Palestinians economically to the state of not wanting to revolt. What that will actually mean is sort of a entrenchment in Palestinian dependency on settlement industrial zone labor as a major incentive of the Netanyahu government.